Have you ever thought, is this just me when struggling to stay organized, start tasks, or manage time? For those of us over 50, these challenges might not be just aging. They could be ADHD hiding in plain sight for decades. I'm Jami Shapiro, host of Grandma Has ADHD, and I'm building a community where your experiences matter. Whether you're diagnosed, questioning, or simply curious, you're not alone. Our Facebook group is filled with vibrant, understanding people over 50 who share their stories, strategies, and yes, even their struggles, with plenty of laughter along the way. Ready to find your people? Join our growing Grandma Has ADHD Facebook community. Please like and subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen, and share it with someone who might need to hear they're not alone, because ADHD doesn't have an age limit, and neither does understanding yourself better. Together, we're changing the conversation about ADHD after 50. Come be part of the story. Before we begin today's episode, I want to provide a brief content advisory. During our conversation, my guest shares a personal experience involving childhood sexual abuse by a family member. This discussion occurs briefly within the larger context of our interview and represents a small portion of the overall content. While this episode contains valuable insights and information, I wanted to give you advance notice so you can make an informed decision about listening, especially if you have young children present or if this topic might be triggering for you. Thank you for your understanding, and I hope you find value in the broader conversation we're sharing today. I am so excited to welcome my friend Betty Landin to the Grandma Has ADHD podcast. A couple of things before we get started. I know a little more about Betty because we actually recorded or tried recording before, and the technological challenges just made it that there was no way we could salvage the sound. And she was so gracious in agreeing to share her story again. So thank you, Betty, first and foremost. And second of all, as soon as Betty popped in and I saw the background, I laughed and I said, "Oh, I know that background." So if you are familiar with the settings in StreamYard, for those of you who are listening and not watching, you can choose a virtual background. And there's this beautiful virtual background of a home with a grand piano, and it just looks so neat and tidy. And it's funny because Betty is not the first ADHD guest to have that background. I have used it myself. And it's really very funny because you are a typical person with ADHD. You're either in the perfectionist camp, or I cannot have anybody see what's behind the curtain camp. So Betty is laughing. Let me tell you a little bit about why I wanted to invite Betty to do the podcast. Betty and I met on a reality television show for entrepreneurs called The Blocks, which we were season 22, and it's going to be out way after this podcast interview. But I was so impressed with Betty because she invented a travel pillow that is called the Wander Pillow that allows you to tuck the blanket inside the neck pillow, which is brilliant because, I mean, if you've ever flown, you know that the planes get cold and they used to pass out the pillows and the blankets. Well, they don't do that anymore. And I've been watching Betty just like skyrocket and win all these awards. So, of course, she has ADHD. But the other thing that's really cool is Betty is probably the sexiest grandmother I've ever met. So she truly is a grandma, but she is rocking grandma. Let me tell you.
Thank you.
Welcome back to the Grandma Has ADHD podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And yeah, I'm grateful to do it again. And hopefully I don't mess up like last time because I just tend to jump right away instead of going step by step. So I have like that.
Not your jumping, and anybody with ADHD knows exactly what you do. We go from topic to topic to topic, and we either remember and we go back and we course correct, or we completely forget and we just go on to the next tangent. So
Correct.
I will rein you in. That was the problem. It was technology. That's another challenge actually with ADHD that I have discovered is that a lot of us who have ADHD, because we don't want to take the time to do step one and then step two and then step three, we just plug it in and go. And then we're surprised when it doesn't work.
Correct. And let me just tell you something really quick. So I've been listening to your podcast and I identify so much with every guest that you have and all the information that you share. It kind of make me feel like, oh, that makes sense. Oh, that's the reason why I do what I do. Oh, like I thought everybody used to do that, and it's just like me and several people more. So,
No, no, I'm actually in the process of finishing writing my book that's going to be out for
oh,
ADHD Awareness Month in October.
oh,
And I'm leaning towards the title. It all makes sense now.
yes,
Right? Like,
yes.
no, that's why I do this. That's why I do this.
Correct. And also the interruptions that you had on the podcast, since I've seen that, and then you say, oh, sorry, it's my ADHD. So I cut myself interrupting people. So I have to restrain myself. I have to be aware that I do that. So I have like, okay, I need to calm down my impulsiveness and let people talk. So what I'm doing is like writing whatever I have in mind so I don't forget.
I love that. I do that with my podcast. So because I'm trying also, and this has been so wonderful for me too, because I get to learn every time I interview somebody. And I've always said that I haven't had a single guest with ADHD that I haven't just really enjoyed because we just connect on a completely different level. So I normally start with the ADHD backstory and how you kind of put the pieces together. But since we're just going to jump all over the place, I've got a question for you, Betty, because I know that
Sure.
you're a mom and a grandma, and we were talking about step by step instructions. Do you enjoy baking when you have to do like multiple ingredients and multiple steps?
No, no.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
not at all. It's too much. I don't have patience. I want to put everything like right away and okay, no, no, baking is not for me.
Yeah. Well, I had another guest who was brilliant, and she basically said she bought a 4 ingredient cookbook. And I'm like, well, I'll go
Yeah,
up to five. I'll go up to 5 ingredients. But yeah,
yeah,
no,
no, no.
I just like to ask these random questions to see if we have something in common. All right, I'm going to ask you another one and then we'll go into your story. When you do cook and if you have leftovers, do you have a hard time judging the size that the leftover container should be? Let's see.
Yes.
That's another.
Yeah, yeah.
another-
And I always spend a lot of time like trying to see the pan and then the container. I'm like, it's gonna fit, it's not gonna fit. And I look at it and I look at it again. Okay. And I always get mad when a container that is not the same size. So I'm like, like
When you have more steps because now you have to clean the container that you tried to use.
yeah.
That's in the spill of, for me, I'm always going too fast. So I want to hear your ADHD story and how you came to realize you had ADHD and then maybe the impact in your children and grandchildren. And then, so if I feel like it's just going too much off tangent, because you are going to hit a point that I know is going to be really important to share with people. And that I have also discovered is very common in the ADHD community. So I will point that out when you get there.
Okay. So do you want me to start since when I was a kid, maybe?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
start how you discovered that you had it, even if you haven't been formally diagnosed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because to be honest
Well,
with you and our audience, my child was formally diagnosed. My mother was formally diagnosed. My diagnosis came from my child's psychiatrist when I said, I'm answering more yeses for me than for them. Do I have ADHD? So it doesn't always, in my work that I'm doing, it doesn't have to be a formal diagnosis. It's sort of
yeah.
like, no, you know.
Yeah. Well, actually, when I find out was when we were in the reality show this last May. So it was when I got so excited that I found over 100 people that are just like me. And then when the now neurodivergent doctor, she was telling us, well, most likely all of you have ADHD. And then for me, it was an eye opener. Then I start looking at the behaviors of people around me. And then I start to look back at my childhood and analyzing all the factors that made me realize that I have ADHD, which is resiliency. And because, well, my story, I had a really, really bad and unsafe childhood. So I told my husband, I wonder why I didn't become crazy or end up in a really bad way in life. More likely with my background, I'm gonna expand a little bit more. So I also like listen to a podcast that is called Killer Psyche, and all like the same background that those people have, it's my background. But
Yes.
then I told my husband, then how come I end up being like an accountant, an inventor, and successful and blah, 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 blah. And then I realized that it's because resilience is part of the ADHD. And I was so different from my family. They're so different from me. I feel like an outcast. And talking about my childhood, well, it's crazy and it's sad, but I mean, right now it's kind of like a survivor story. So I got raped by my uncle when I was 8 years old. So
Mm.
I didn't know that I was raped because I found that until I was in college that
Yes.
I was performing oral sex to my uncle. But I
Yes.
didn't know until I was in college because I always been like super nerdy and books and all that. So for me, sex wasn't in my mind. And I just knew that I didn't feel good doing that. And I felt kind of ashamed, but I didn't know what I was doing. And then friends of my parents, they had kids and they let us, like, I don't know, be like raised by God or something like that. And so that's the reason why I always was sexual, like harassed by my dad's friends. And it was so unsafe for me. So my goal for me was just to leave my hometown, leave my parents, because I know they were not doing me any favors. And also I was the outcast. I was telling you that I felt like I was Matilda in my
Mm.
house. So Matilda is always into books, always very creative, doing all the good things, and then the parents are so messed up, like they think books are dumb. And my family, they didn't think books were dumb, but books weren't for women. So I
Mhm.
shouldn't supposed to go not even to high school. So I had to rebel against my dad because he was like old school, my mom's submissive. So I was like, where am I gonna end up? Like being raped for the rest of my life, having a bunch of kids, being beaten up by a guy, because in my community, that's the reality of women. So they just don't succeed.
I had to interact with some statistics that I've learned since we interviewed the first time, and that is the incidence of women with ADHD being in abusive relationships is like 5 times more likely than someone who does not have ADHD. And I don't know why that is. I have some theories behind it. I don't want to take away
Uh-huh.
from the story,
Yeah, yeah.
but so they are more likely to have teenage pregnancy. And I believe you also had a teenage.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I had my daughter when I was 21 years old.
So that's not teenage.
Kind Yeah, and I graduated at 22, which it was good because by that time I was victim of domestic violence. So my ex-husband, he used to beat me up because I used to respond. Because if I didn't respond to him, because he was very possessive. So for me, it was better to leave. And thankfully, I graduated super young, so I had a little bit of money to raise my kids, even though my marriage cost me the house, the furniture, and everything. I ended up homeless with my two babies. And the worst thing is that his parents, they were involved on him taking the house from me, which I paid half, and they didn't. But that's another story. I know.
Wow. Sounds like you have been through a lot, and I can definitely see where resiliency and that trait has been by your side. Can you talk a little bit about your behavior as a child? And I just want to also say this from what I understand about ADHD, a couple of things. First, I want to say that I forgot Kristen's last name. She is the neurodivergent teacher.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And she did a course for people at part of the block's curriculum that was not part of what we were going to be judged on, but it was on burnout. And we had to get up early if we wanted to hear that presentation. And so many people were enamored with everything that she was saying, like, oh, it was just clicking, that she offered to then do a question and answer period after the show wrapped up. And we had dinner that night. And so many people went to this presentation that, just like Betty, that the ADHD had been unlocked for them, that they had no
Yeah.
idea. And I've heard the statistic about 50% of entrepreneurs have ADHD, because you said all, and I never want to use all ever, but there are reasons that people with ADHD are more likely to become entrepreneurs. And I do also want to share that for some people who have ADHD symptoms, it can be from a trauma response. So it's also highly likely that even if you don't have ADHD, a lot of the behavior might be from trauma, because you absolutely went through trauma. How
Yeah.
we sort of tell if it is heritable, because ADHD is highly heritable, is
Mhm.
what have any children or grandchildren that have ADHD.
Well, I going to the question about if I think I had ADHD when I was a kid. I really don't see myself having ADHD type, but when I was a kid, I think it could be a response from all the trauma that I got because once I got older and older, I developed the way I am because I remember even at my 20s, I wasn't like this. I was able to sit down. Remember I had a lot of energy, but I don't remember to sit down and just thinking about a lot of stuff. Or maybe because I was so busy. I was working, I was going to school, I was taking care of my kids. Maybe, I don't know.
Right. That's
And
why it's hard, as when you have ADHD, it's also hard to look back and remember
yeah,
things. And a lot of times when you're being evaluated, they want you to bring somebody else with you who knows you or knew you, because I don't remember things all the time. That's why I said, do you have a child or a grandchild with ADHD?
I think it may be one of my daughters. Is not like very pronounced, but I kind of see that she's very much like me. So
Okay. And
she's my oldest.
yeah, and I will also say that Betty, although she is a grandma, she is under the age of 50.
Yeah.
And so the other thing that I have discovered is that perimenopause, when menopause makes ADHD symptoms worse,
Yes.
because ADHD estrogen is pro-cognitive. And so having high estrogen levels or higher estrogen levels balances what ADHD does to us. So I don't want to know where you are in that process.
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm
because
exactly right there.
my ADHD has gotten worse as I age. And this is funny. I was actually just like a week or two ago, I was using an app to eliminate. I have so many pictures. And another thing that happens with ADHD, tell me if this is you, is that we screenshot everything, or we take pictures
Yeah.
of everything to try to remember it. And we
Yes.
don't, right? She's saying yes. So many pictures. So I've got an app where I'm trying to go through and clean things out. So at one point, I had screenshotted the results of an ADHD test that I took that said I did not have ADHD, which is so funny. But it is cyclical. Just it is something that you do have times in your life where it's just not so pronounced and you've got it together and things are clicking and you wouldn't think that you had ADHD. And then there are times that it's just, oh my gosh, I'm so ADHD. So I do want to
Yeah.
mention that's also what happens with aging as well. Like for me, I have two children with ADHD, and my youngest was just diagnosed a couple months ago after I had already gone more than halfway through ADHD coach training,
Wow.
because for her, she was able to sort of, well, now looking back, I'm like, oh yeah, that was ADHD, but I didn't see it. So it does change. And they say that sometimes for girls, you may not see it until like the age of 16, and it's inattentive. Neither of my children are hyperactive. So their behavior wasn't an issue, where I was a behavior issue in school because I am combined, which means I have hyperactive and
I used to talk a lot. Now thinking about it, when I was in elementary, I finished everything super fast, and then I started talking to other people. So my teacher had to make me her pet. So I was the pet teacher. So she can keep me occupied. Not yeah, yeah. Now,
right. When you start to look at it, like, oh yeah, that was that. So I always got N's on my report card for needs improvement for
yeah,
talks to in class.
yeah,
Um, yeah, so I loved
yeah.
that.
And my husband, he is so amazed because I told him that in college I never study ever for an exam. maybe I read like 30 minutes before the test, but that's about it. And I end up with, I don't know, a B the whole college with having a kid, a husband, and all that. But no, I never study. It's just as I was pregnant during college, I used to go sat down at the very end of the classroom and then sleep. And then I still could process whatever the teacher was saying. So, and that's why I never had to do a test. But going back to your question about perimenopause, yeah, I'm on that era of my life, but I noticed that recently I have become more like hyper, more the way I am right now is just recently. Before it wasn't like that much. And then I have been listening to your podcast. I have been reading about perimenopause and all that. And yeah, it says that increase your chances for ADHD. So I'm like, okay, makes sense because I don't remember being like this the way I am right now a few years ago. So I just don't remember now. I have to be occupied the whole day, like every minute. If not, I don't know. I go crazy. I need to be busy.
Right. I also struggle when I have too many choices or too many decisions. I love Facebook because now when I look at memories in Facebook, I can see the ADHD that I didn't know that I had. Like, I remember I had a full day with my kids by myself and I had nothing planned, and my ex husband wasn't available. And I'm like, I don't even know what to do. And then so sometimes I'd be so overwhelmed that we wouldn't do anything because I couldn't even make the choices. And I was
Oh,
talking to my partner today about why I love Costco. And it's because Costco is choice A or choice B. And if you
oh,
don't take it, you can take it back.
yeah. Well, I shop everything online. I just don't like shopping, first of all.
Me
So
either.
I get anxiety just to trying stuff. I get anxiety. I just can't be in the fitting room. And so I buy everything online so I know what store fits me. And I've been buying things from that store since ever because I just don't like it. Even shoes, I don't go and try shoes. And plus, I'm very frugal. So if I have just one pair of shoes, like they're black, so I don't need another one until they're worn out. And also for groceries, I try to order online because if I go, it's funny because I like networking and I enjoy that. But if I go to buy groceries, I don't like to be around people.
You don't like
And
small talk?
no.
I know that's an ADHD thing. It's
Uh,
more, I need real substantive conversation.
yeah.
Okay. I'm going to take a break because if you listen to the podcast, that we are not monetizing this podcast, but it helps me to grow the business for Silver Linings Transitions and to grow my coaching business. And soon I will be advertising the book. I just made the title. But when we come back, we're going to do two things with you, Betty. I'm going to ask
Okay.
you about the button, which you know the button if you've listened to the podcast. If you could push the button and not have ADHD, never have had it, and it would go away forever, would you push it? So don't answer that question. And then I want you to tell us about the Wander Pillow
Yeah.
and how we can buy it. And so we're going to take a pause and come right back with Betty, probably the sexiest grandma with ADHD I have ever met. Hey there, amazing listeners. Get ready because something incredible is coming your way. And trust me, you're not going to want to miss this. I am thrilled to announce my very first virtual book signing event for This Explains So Much. And here is the best part, I'm not doing this alone. I'll be joined by someone extra special, my mom, Vicky Armel. That's right, it's going to be a family affair, and we're going to have an absolute blast. Mark your calendars because This Explains So Much will be available for purchase on Amazon starting October 1st, just in time for ADHD Awareness Month. That gives you plenty of time to dive into the pages, absorb all those aha moments, and come ready for our interactive book club discussion. Whether you're sipping your afternoon coffee on the West Coast at 4 p.m. or settling in with your evening tea on the East Coast at 7 p.m., we've got you covered. We will be live on Sunday, October 26th. This isn't just any book signing, it's your chance to connect with me and my mom, Ask questions, share your thoughts, and be part of a community that gets it. Because honestly, this really does explain so much, and I can't wait to explore it all with you. So grab your copy on October 1st, start reading, and get ready for an incredible virtual experience on October 26th. Trust me, you belong here, and we can't wait to see your faces on screen. Until then, keep being awesome, and remember, the best stories are the ones we discover together. See you October 26th. Ever wondered why helping a loved one declutter feels like speaking different languages? I did, especially with my mom. It wasn't until I founded Silver Linings Transitions, helping San Diego seniors organize and move for over a decade, that I discovered why. We all experience clutter differently, and for those of us with ADHD, it's a whole other world. If you are listening in the San Diego area and feeling stuck with moving, paperwork, photos, or home organization, our team at Silver Linings Transitions gets it. We understand ADHD's unique challenges, and we won't just help you get organized, we'll create sustainable systems that finally stick. Schedule a consultation with our team today at 760-522-1624. That's 760-522-1624, or find us at silverliningstransitions.com. And we are back with Betty. I do want to mention that I forgot to say this, but it's really, really important to growing this community and growing the awareness of ADHD in seniors. It doesn't go away with age. It's, that you share this podcast if you would like it. And because the more people who listen and like it and share it, the more attention it receives. And it's funny, this was the first week that I saw a huge boost in people listening. And I've been told it takes a little time. And every time you put something out, there's a fear like nobody's going to listen to it. I'm a failure. I don't know if you have that negative self talk, Betty, that's really, really common in the ADHD
Yeah.
space.
No, all the time, all the time. So,
Right. That was actually what I was working on in the book this morning. Okay. So I asked you first about the button. If you could press the button, never have ADHD, never have had ADHD, would you press that button?
no, because that makes me unique. And I noticed because of my ADHD, I'm very competitive and perfectionist. I don't know if you knew I was a bodybuilder competitor as
Yeah.
well. So I just don't like never just to do something and be average. Never, never. So I started going to the gym and I was like, I don't want to just come here and lift. I'm going to become a bodybuilder competitor. And I become a bodybuilder competitor. And that's also the reason why I am in inventions, because I'm not in my mind, I'm not like everybody else. I am unique. So even when I go and do my blood test, I have to score everything perfectly and just to feel good about myself.
Well, it's funny. I'm nodding my head as you're saying that because one of my Facebook memories that I think it came up yesterday was in my yoga studio. We were getting gold stars every time we did a yoga class in this 30-day challenge, and I won. And at the International ADHD Conference, they gamified the conference. So basically, everybody got a QR code, and every time you met, you got points for getting their QR code. And then when you did certain activities, you'd get points. And then they had like an ADHD Quest winner. And I didn't know in the beginning that this contest was going on. So I definitely missed some opportunities. But no, wait to go back and try to win, because I've noticed that there seems to be two camps. There's either I am so motivated, I love this, I want to do this, I'm going to do it the best that I can because it interests me, or I cannot. I just cannot. And then it's just I can't. I just okay. Well, so speaking of winning, I have been blown away. So Betty, as I shared this pillow, and we're friends on social media, and we're friends within the Blocks community of entrepreneurs, and watching your social media advertising and all of the awards you're winning. So tell everybody about the Wander pillow, and it's Wander, Wander, which is such a great name, pillow. So tell us how that came to be, and then, of course, how we can find it and you.
Yeah, well, I invented the Wonder Pillow because I travel so much and I always cold. So actually, I was tired of carrying a blanket or carrying a hoodie. So I said, okay, I'm gonna look for that online because I want to buy it because I buy everything online. So I couldn't find it. So I said, well, I'm gonna invent it. I'm gonna draw it. And I'm gonna draw my dress. I'm gonna do my draft, and then I waited a few years just to see if somebody invented, because that's what I do all the time. I invent stuff, and then a few years after, somebody comes out with it, and then I purchased this. I was like, I'm gonna go for it. This is something that I just can't pass, and I just can't let somebody come up with idea. It has to be me. I have to change the world. So that's part of my bucket list. So I needed to be recognized for something in the world. So I don't
Like,
know why.
I
Anyway,
no, I understand completely. And I am the same. There are so many things that I thought of and then they got invented and I went for it. And I don't know about you, but with this podcast and getting the message out about ADHD in the space that I have been working in, I feel like it is my duty. It is my
yes,
purpose on earth.
yes,
And when you have that feeling, you cannot walk away from it. But I'll tell you
no,
what, I'll tell you the products that I came up with that I did not invent, where you could put the voice inside the teddy bear. That was mine before. And here's another one that I loved. The lights, when you have like holiday lights and they're like little stakes in the ground, I thought of interchanging the
oh,
vary by season. That was my idea. Then I had one, I even paid somebody and then I dropped the ball to have like wipes that you could use for deodorant under your arms. So that way, if you didn't have time to shower and you need
mhm.
to go from one thing to the next, you could just use that as a wipe and not like an antibacterial wipe.
Yeah, yeah,
So trust me, I have that. My brain is constantly, and that's an
yeah,
ADHD trait, is to see something that's missing and
yeah.
link it together.
You always try to come up with a solution. That's my problem and my blessing, I guess. And yeah, so I went for it. I submit a utility patent because it's already invented how they use shape it and everything. But I just wanted to get the patent for the utility. So how you have the blanket stored inside, how you untuck it, how you put it back, how to remove the cover so you can put it in the washing machine, and also that you can use it for road trips, trains, airplanes, and even to be in the couch. And recently I take it to the movies because one of my clients bought it for his wife for the movie. So I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. I'm gonna use it too. And it's because it's so unique. People have been reaching out. So right now I'm in 4 retail stores across the nation. I'm in Amazon, Walmart Marketplace, my website, of course. And the local networks, they have reaching out to me because they're like, oh, it's so cool. And it's so cool that I'm a woman and I'm from a small town, which is El Paso, Texas, right? So, which is pretty cool. Nobody have come with an invention from my areas. And I've been posting about features because in the magazine, they have reached out to me and they think it's cool. They like my story because how someone that shouldn't even have to go to school now is an inventor. So how you do that? So you can tell more people, because in my community, in the Mexican community, they're so conservative and women are not treated equally.
I love that that is your mission. I'm also sad that it has to be your mission in 2025, that we
I
still
know.
have to show that women can do anything a man can do. But while you were speaking, of course, my ADHD brain started thinking of different ways that you could market it. So I was like, oh, you should go to movie theaters and see if they want to carry
Yes.
your. So that was
Yeah.
one. We talked about cruise ships when we were in
Yes.
ports, could have it. And so, first of all, if they want to order it, what's the best way for them to get?
They can go to the wonderpillow.com. Is wonder as you wander the world. It's,
Yeah.
so that's
Wander, wanderpillow.com.
correct.
And are you still dressing up as a superhero in your ads?
Yeah, I'm still there and also as a flight attendant.
as a flight attendant. I love it. Yeah, Betty, you really are so inspiring. And I would agree that part of your mission is not only that you invented something, which you totally found something that was needed, but also that you are inspiring other people who, when they have hit bottom or they think that there's nothing for them, you are such proof that is. I say this to my kids all the time, like, you get to decide what you do with your life. Like, you get to
Correct.
decide, do you want to be the victim or do you want to pick yourself up and go out and do as much as you possibly can? And I know
Correct.
that mental health, and I don't want to just diminish it, that we all struggle with mental health in different ways. And some people, like you and I, have that resiliency and we're like,
Yeah.
okay, this happened and now I'm going to pick myself up. And some people, they do let their circumstances define their lives. And that's definitely one of the things that I want to do is make sure that people are aware that you get to make choices. And I do want to say, and I'm apologizing that I'm using your episode, but it's really
No
important because I
problem.
learned it, that I discovered I was listening to Dr. Daniel Amen with Jay Shetty, and he was talking about ADHD in a podcast. And he said that you can actually take the wrong medication for ADHD, which can exacerbate symptoms. So you need to be aware of the kind of ADHD that you have and then be aware of
Mm.
taking because it can make symptoms worse. So I do want to just say that when we're talking about mental health, I always like to ask my guests if there's anything that they want to share that they didn't share to an audience, keeping in mind that a lot of people, Betty, who are listening to this podcast are discovering ADHD.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are like really upset. Like I think of my mom, she's always my avatar because my
Yeah.
mom is brilliant, but did not finish college. My grandfather, I would say, was abusive. My mother took a lot of a lot of external criticism. I gave it to her. I'm feeling so bad now that I recognize she was doing the best she could. And it changed our relationship for me to now have an empathy and an understanding. So, anything you want to share?
Yeah, well, thanks to your podcast, I discovered that ADHD is our superpower. So, what I like to share with people is use it as your superpower. You're unique, you're special, you can do more than anybody in the world, in the room. So, use it, explode it. So, just take advantage of what the gift that you have and just make a change in the world. So at the end of the day, that's also my goal. And when I pass away, I want my kids to see, I'm getting emotional, to look back and see what their mom accomplished, even everything I went through. So I want them to remember me as I always thought I was unique and I made the world a better place to live.
Well, you are inspiring. And I learned
Thank
a
you.
new expression that I like. And it's not I'm proud of you, but I am proud for you. I am
Thank
proud
you.
of you, Betty.
Thank you.
You are
Thank you so much.
you are a bright light and you are an inspiration. And I know that your children are going to be so proud that you were their mom. Back to
Thank
that
you.
everything. A lot of people do not see ADHD as their superpower. And I want to say that what you have to do is you have to figure out what lights you up, right? So I have another quick funny story. So when I was married, whenever I would bring a new plant into the house, I call him my husband because ex-husband sounds cruel. He was my husband. And he would literally do the funeral, like, I don't remember how
Oh,
musician, and he would like hum like, okay, here's going to be the next victim. And less than a year ago, I have a spot and I've learned now that geraniums are probably the easiest plants for people with ADHD. And I now know why my grandmother had so many geraniums. So I have a pot of geraniums and there was an empty spot from something else that I tried to plant that didn't take. And I had gone to Trader Joe's and this beautiful purple flower. And I'm like, oh, that would be so pretty next to that geranium in that spot. Well, I bring the plant home. I take it out of the plastic thing. I sit it on top of the pot thinking I'm going to get around to it and I'm going to plant it properly. Well, eventually it dies. And
oh,
my ADHD presentation, I did a comedy shtick on my life with ADHD and I take a picture of this dead plant in the pot. Well, P.S. I love hydrangeas. They are my all-time favorite flower. And I also would get hydrangeas every spring around May when the hydrangeas are $10.99 at Trader Joe's.
oh,
Well, when the hydrangeas done blooming, I had started planting them in my backyard. Well, I tend to those hydrangeas, and I have this one hydrangea that is like the most magnificent hydrangea you have ever seen because that was where my interest was. So that's going to be in my book. So I want to just say, if you're listening, because just like you, Betty, a lot of people are getting their
Yeah.
information from this. So
Yes.
it is your superpower, but you have to figure out where it works for you and where it doesn't. And trust, just like Betty said, I hate to go to the store. I hate small talk.
Yeah.
We don't like to cook, right? So it is not always a blessing. There are definitely the downsides, but thankfully, a plus side for both of us is that resilience and that ability
Yes.
to see the silver lining. And anyway, so
Correct.
I had to go. Okay. Anything else that you want to share before we end this podcast?
Well, I just like to thank you for having this podcast, which is super unique, is the one of a kind. So who would have thought that this comes from our grandparents? And just keep going because a lot of people like me, like a lot of people over there, they just like learning how to cope with themselves just by listening to your podcast and realizing, oh, I'm not broken. Oh, this is the reason why I am who I am or the way I do what I do. So I will like just to encourage you to just keep going. You're doing such an amazing change in the world.
Oh, well, I really, really take your opinion of me highly. And I appreciate that you're listening to the podcast and that it
Oh
is
yeah.
making a difference for you. So thank you all for listening to the Grandma Has ADHD podcast and joining Betty Landin and me and myself, me. Is look and buy Betty's pillow, the is it the Wonder Pillow or just Wando Pillow?
That Wonder Pillow.
Wanderpillow.com, WANDER pillow.com. And please, again, like this podcast, share this podcast, and join the Grandma Has ADHD Facebook community. It is growing. It is slow growing, but just like the podcast, it all sort of, once it catches, it catches. But what I can tell you is that once you find your people and you meet others who have experienced the same thing that you have, there is such a freedom in feeling like seen and understood. So
Yeah.
I like to say to you, I cannot stand when someone says, why do you need to have a podcast for seniors who are discovering their ADHD? So what? They've lived their whole life. Well, as I like to say, you know what? I am not going to want to stop growing when I am 80 years old.
Correct.
I want to continue to learn. And I think that is exactly who our audience is. So I really am dedicated to helping you make the rest of your life the best of your life. Thanks for listening. The opinions expressed on Grandma Has ADHD podcast are those of our guests and hosts and are intended for informational and entertainment purposes only. This podcast does not provide medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. The content discussed in this episode is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician, mental health professional, or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or mental health concern. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this podcast. If you think you may have a medical emergency, call your doctor or emergency services immediately. The host, guests, and producers of Grandma Has ADHD do not assume any liability for the content of this podcast. Listen at your own discretion. Are you tired of feeling like you can't get it together? Struggling with clutter that overwhelms you despite your best efforts? Wondering why organization feels impossible while others make it look so easy? You're not alone, and it's not your fault. Hi, I'm Jami Shapiro, host of the Grandma Has ADHD podcast, and I understand exactly what you're going through. I combine my years of hands-on work as founder of Silver Linings Transitions, a move management and home organizing company, together with ADHD coach training, and help adults 50 and over connect the dots between ADHD and lifelong struggles. Whether you're downsizing, decluttering, or simply trying to create systems that work for your ADHD brain, I provide virtual and in-person coaching for those in the San Diego area.
Together, we'll develop practical strategies that honor how your brain actually works, not how you think it should work. Ready to trade shame for understanding? Visit grandmahasadhd.com or call to schedule a discovery session at 760-607-7377, because it's never too late to finally make sense of your story.